First, I wanted to tell you one good reference to look at, and then it can be useful for you to know more about heritage project. There's this collaborative work of ECLOM and Smithsonian Institute and the current cultural emergency response. It's formerly a part of Prince Claus Foundation. Has developed some of the toolkit and guideline, like you can see on the slide. It's available in different language, including Arabic, but of course in English. This can be a good way to look at. And then also this is help the guideline that when something happened to your heritage, you can also look at this and what the process should be. And there's a really nice video. So maybe you can see this. Oh, sorry. It started from. Is it okay?
Yes.
When disaster strikes, years of human achievement can be wiped out in a moment. In a large-scale disaster, such as an earthquake or an armed conflict, people are often anxious to salvage their ancient monuments, their works of art, or their family heirlooms, sometimes putting their own lives at risk. First aid to cultural heritage ensures the effects of a disaster on heritage can be tackled in a systematic and practical way, helping people resume their lives and move towards recovery. First aid to cultural heritage consists of 3 steps. Step 1 is a situation analysis, examining the wider context and looking at what heritage people want to save while identifying who is in charge and who takes action. Will it be the army? Are firefighters required? Will volunteers be available? Step 2 is a damage and risk assessment, determining the extent of any damage to cultural heritage, assessing buildings and affected items, and identifying exposed or unstable objects that may pose a risk if left unattended. Step 3 is the security and stabilization phase, in which action is taken to contain damage and stabilize the condition of affected heritage. This might involve evacuating items, shoring unstable structures, providing temporary storage for materials, and ensuring traditions and rituals can be resumed safely. A cultural first aider can be anyone trained in emergency response who is people-focused and action-oriented. The cultural first aid method will help improve emergency preparedness, enabling people and organizations to protect cultural heritage in conjunction with humanitarian assistance and train others to do the same. Find out more about first aid to cultural heritage in a handbook designed to empower quick and effective emergency response action. Download it for free at www.ikram.org. By rescuing cultural heritage, together we can help communities and build resilience. Training for Cultural Heritage First Aid is a joint initiative between ICRAM, the International Center for Heritage Preservation, the Smithsonian Cultural Rescue Initiative, and the Prince Claus Fund, based on a methodology conceived by ICRAM. Together, these organizations have been working to tackle the issue of emergency preparedness and response for heritage, because culture cannot wait.
So that was the video about showing the first response when the heritage is damaged. And I thought I wanted to introduce a little bit about the heritage emergency situation. And also I want to introduce what are the differences between the research grant, which you just heard from Mariusz, and the heritage project grant or heritage emergency grant. The biggest difference is, as Mariusz said at the very beginning of his talk, he said that he read previous publications and then he found there are some questions not answered yet. There's some research gap that is interesting for him to look at. That's why he decided to develop a project. But in case of heritage project, there's usually some kind of program existing problem or the situation that could be problematic. So that it's a response, it's more like a reactions to what's happening already. So it's not about research, so research and finding out, but it's rather trying to solve the current problem. So this is an important difference. And the reason I separated this heritage project grants and emergency grants, it's a little bit different usually in objectives. And the project grants is usually longer term and then usually have a larger budget possibility. And it includes more complex heritage-related project, like supporting a mitigation plan, conservation work, documentation of endangered knowledge and technology. And this can be focused on, one project can focus on one of these things, or it can be combined. And this usually grant call has a deadline or sometimes have a aim. So if there's every year there's a recurring project as grant call, it could have a different topic. I will talk about it later, but the project I got funding from ALIPH that grant call had a climate change as a main focus point of the grant project. And Heritage Emergency Grants is something that's recently or currently be immediate danger or recently damaged things, and it's really need to be urgent. If you don't act now, it could really completely destroyed or damaged, and we lose this cultural heritage. And the good thing, because of this, usually the application is open all the time. So you can submit whenever you find that this is necessary. But at the same time, usually the project is a short-term one, a few months to 1 year. So that what's important in here to focus is they are looking for more temporary solution until you can find a bigger grant, which is the project grant. So that, sometimes you need to act quickly. And then some of their funding, like I think you remember on the first day, the project manager of ALIPH Foundation, Adonis Hussein, he mentioned that there is ALIPH also has something that can provide support, financial support. Could be like in a day or a week or very quickly. And there are a few other options like so that they usually make a decision quickly what's needed and then they provide a fund. And so I just want to give you some example about emergency grant. So usually the structure look like this. This is as of now, and sometimes they change, but these are the information you need to provide when you write a grant. And you can also check, there's one of the part of the application has this list of what kind of action that you want to request support. And then this can be useful because this tells what they are funding. So you can see here there are different, quite more specific grant that they can support. Sorry, the grant. Sorry, the project that they can finance. And then they also ask for some supporting documents. And this is the same for the next one. And this is a project grant call structure. Don't worry, you don't have to understand everything what's written, but I wanted you to compare what's the difference of the information they ask for. So this is the same organization, but different project grant category. And then they ask for different things. And project grant, because it's a larger project, more complex, so they ask for more information. And there are different funders who help for the heritage projects. As I said, ALIPH Foundation, and you heard not just this Irkoni project, you heard from Mahmoud Suleiman yesterday that ALIPH has been funding several times for Bejawiya project. And so that but there are other also the funders who also provides funding. And the second one, cultural emergency response, which is an organization that created this guidebook and toolkit that I just mentioned. They specialize in emergency first aid. So when something happens, the earthquake happens, flood happens, they are usually the quickest, one of the quickest organization that can provide funding for the first rescue program. The third one is British Council Cultural Protection Fund. This organization also fund a lot of projects in Sudan. I will come back to this. And there's also another funding, large funding, is a U.S. Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. And there is also UNESCO funding, UNESCO Heritage Emergency Fund. Again, yesterday, Mahmoud Suleiman mentioned that the Bejawiya project is also partly funded by this. There is another ASO Cultural Heritage Initiatives. This one recently also provided funding for a National Museum in Khartoum. And you heard about Gerda Hinkel just right now from Marios. And the last one is not really a heritage emergency program, but I thought some of you might be interested. It's called there's an Endangered Material Knowledge Program. This one is more in support specifically intangible heritage and then documenting intangible heritage that is endangered, that may, if we don't document now, it might disappear. For example, there are only older people who have certain skills, and we have to record it so that we can, keep the knowledge to the next generation. And these are the main options. And as you can see, there are different types. As I said, ALIPH has project grant, emergency grant, and action plan, which is much shorter first aid emergency grant. And who can apply is also different depending on the funders. So I want you to know what type. I want you to know that different funding organizations are interested in supporting different way, and also who can apply, so that for example, UNESCO Heritage Emergency Fund is via member states, so that it's usually go through the UNESCO Khartoum office in case of Sudan. And the UNESCO Khartoum office bring it to the Paris and World Heritage Center, and the World Heritage Committee will discuss. So depending on the different funding, there are different people who can apply, or usually institution or group of people who can apply. Here are some examples of recently funded project in Sudan. ALIPH Foundation, you already heard from Adonis that there has been 21 projects funded since 2019 by ALIPH, but this is just a few examples. This includes the Baraka project and Irkoni project. Both we are currently operating as a PCMA in Odongara and Sikoot region. We also received the funding for emergency grant of the shelter of the shelter for one of the royal church in Odongara, because it was damaged, and then if the the rain comes, it could damage the wall paintings. And as I said, British Council Cultural Protection Fund has provided funding like Sudan Memory Project, Western Sudan Community Museum Project, and Safeguarding Sudan's Living Heritage Project, and UNESCO Heritage funding, emergency fund. Why I mentioned this? Because some of the funding who already funded Sudan might be interested in to provide a next grant because they already have experience. They are familiar with how things work, so that this could be a good place to look at. Okay. Usually, depending on the funders, of course, applications are different, but like in the case of research grant, Mariusz mentioned, they usually have the similar structures and similar information that they want to ask. So they have a project summary, and it's important that in a very short sentence that you can explain what this project is about and what you want to achieve and what problem you want to solve. And the next is context or justification. So this is a heritage grant, as I said, so that you need to explain how bad things are for the heritage and how do you know? Have you seen it? What's the situation of this heritage? And you need to explain how it looks like now. And objective. So also this is a bit different from research project. It's important that your aim has measurable objectives. I'm coming back to this, what do you mean measurable? And you need to explain about activities, what you will do in the project, and the methodology. And it's important that if this is realistic, because you are trying to convince that there is a problem and I want to solve. So it has to be realistic. It's always there's ideal, solution, but here it is more important that you have a realistic solution to something, and you can convince that this can be solve a certain problem. And it's also important, if there is only 1 year for the project period, you cannot do many things, and usually each activity needs some time to complete. So it's important that you don't put too many things. Rather, it's good to show that how much each activity takes to complete, and make sure that everything's that according to the objective, you can complete this. And it's usually also you have to explain, so what are the concrete outputs and how this objective can bring about a realistic outcome. I will come back to this. I think it's a little bit difficult, so I will coming back with an example of Irkoni project. And then the same, like a research grant is a team of partners. You need a different suitable specialists in your project. If you are going to do a conservation work, you need a conservators, so that you can show that your project are able to complete this project according to the activities and objectives. And the budget is also important, and you need to be honest. And also you need to be able to explain why certain things you need this equipment, why, and also how did you know about the price of this equipment, or so you need to be able to explain how you are calculating each budget item. And in case of emergency fund and also heritage project in conflict area or non-conflict area also, it's important to show that what could be the barrier to complete the project so that you are aware that maybe something goes wrong. And in this case, what are you going to do? This is also important to show that this is part of the things that the reviewer of the funding look at so that they know that this also explaining what's the risk and then potential risk and what's the plan for the risk, then you can convince that your project can complete. And also at the end, usually it asks about what happens after the grant, because usually the grant is 1 year or 3 years. So what happens after that? Because, heritage needs to be taken care after that. And you need to explain what's your plan after the funding finished. And across this, it's very important to be consistent. So you need to sometimes activity and objective need to be connected, and the budget and activities and deliverable need to be connected, and then they all need to be explained together, and then there's no there is no differences between different sections. And the common mistake of writing a grant application, and this sometimes also related to the research grant also. The reviewer of your grant are usually not specialized in heritage in Sudan or specific region or specific period. So that it's important that you explain. For example, like in case of my project, I use the term like a diffi, koppa, but you all know because you are familiar with Sudanese heritage, but the people who assess the application, they might don't know. So that it's important that you write for intelligent non-specialist of Sudan heritage. And the budget narrative, as I said, that it's important that you justify that certain things are very necessary for the project and how you estimated the cost. Another thing, as I said, this is the problem solving project. So it's good to have clear statements. So for example, the project will raise awareness of local community. It's a bit vague. It doesn't explain what you are going to do and what's the result and then what's the deliverable. So it's better to say the project will conduct 10 outreach programs. 5 of them are hands-on activities for school children and 5 lectures for youth and adults related to arts and heritage. So this gives them more convincing and then inform them what you are going to do. And it's also important to read the grant call and guidelines. This is something also Mario was stressing. And it's important to check the goal of the grant, also the funder, what are they interested, and make it clear how your project is related to their goal. And the last one is common mistake is vague or soft wording. So especially when you apply for the first time, maybe you don't have a confidence and say you try to use some vague words, but it's important to be explicit and you need to convince the people who are reading it. So explain how your project is relevant, urgent, and implementable, and with a justified budget and based on the excellent experts. Another common mistake is important to check the typo and the grammatical error. This is also for the research grant. So I think it was a little bit of vague ideas that I just gave you a framework, but I want to give you some example from what I wrote in Irkoni project application. So I responded to the ALIPH 6 grant call, which focused on climate change. And they also prefers, they were interested in, especially on Africa, heritage in Africa. And in general, this application I submitted was 32 pages of grant application, and the supporting document was 129 pages and one big budget sheet. And there's another common mistake is sometimes you underestimate the time to complete because to create this kind of document takes time. And so that it's important to start working on the application, not just before the application deadline. So Irkoni project is Irkoni Safeguarding Historic Earth and Architecture project. And then there are four main objectives: documentation, mapping, community collaboration, dealing with community heritage, and capacity building. So relating to these objectives, I have some activities that I promised them to complete. In terms of documentation, 20 historic earthen buildings to document. So it's important to be clear that not just saying I will document historic buildings. It's more important to say 20 historic earthen buildings. And the other documentation is more intangible part. So oral histories of each recorded building relating to the ones that it's documented. And also document disaster memories and location recording. Because this grant call was related in climate change, so that, sorry, I need to admit people. Yes, so that, and there are a lot of old people, especially, remember what happened, where the flood happened, what has been destroyed in their village. So this will be also recorded to help create the plan later for the heritage prevention plan. And also recording is about construction and maintenance skill and technology and knowledge of earthen building. So these are the documentation activities. And then the next part is a mapping. So using GIS. So I will create a map of 20 historic earthen buildings. So I will integrate into the satellite image at the location of the past disaster, which I got from the disaster memory, and add recorded oral history information so that I create a GIS database relating to the historic art and architecture in the project area. I also want to do the heritage education and collaborative program with the local community. So I will do 10 heritage activities for children, 10 lectures and discussion with elders and youth, and one rehabilitation of one earthen building in the village that is going to be selected by the villagers and the local builders and specialists will work on this together. And the last one is capacity building. Training, we provide this project provide training. One is on-site training of local people and one online workshop, which you are taking right now. And the Irkoni project has this is a methodology. So we limited the location because it's a one-year project. So it's Mara, Abli, Tabach, Koikan, and Circulated Abt. I will come back to this. And it's important in the application you include a map because, as I said, people who are reading might not know where these places are. And the target historic art and architecture, also it's important to explain what you mean. And we are looking at the religious one like halwa or mosque, funeral like goppa, public occasion building, like for funeral or wedding, or defense and the vernacular diffi or kulfa, vernacular building like Nubian house. And it's important to also include pictures, not just the picture of the damages, but also the picture of what these building looks like, what are the target places you are talking about. So as I said, so digital documentation, we use systematic photographs, digital photogrammetry, and the location will be recorded with GNSS system. We conduct disaster memory collection through interviews and communication, so community collaboration and community engagement is we design together with the local community what we want to teach, how we want to do it. And other things is knowledge and the building, knowledge of the building and the maintenance recording is through video. And we also want to create a trilingual technical word list because this is a Nubian area. We want to record technical terms in Arabic, English, and also Nubian, so that not only the tech skills and technology to be recorded, but we also want to look at the language preservation too. So these are what we are going to do and how we want to do it. And we created a project team, and we have Shadia Abdulrabo from NCAM, and Sana El Batal, who is an ethnographer, and Abdel Nasser, also ethnographer. And we also have other people who help with us, especially like language specialist, conservator, and training course lecturer. As you saw, there are a lot of people contributing to this workshop. And also I get help from other specialists about digital documentation. And like Adrian, their help, PCMA Digital Documentation Lab is supporting this project. So why this project started? Because of the presence of unique heritage. Of course, this area is not the only one that has these amazing historic buildings, but this is one of the region that has a lot of diffi still preserved, interesting goppa, and also some other unique historic buildings. The other reason is that because there are previous survey that recorded Kurufa or Diffi and the Koppa in this region so that we can compare which has been lost or which building has been damaged over the years. So that I thought this is also good to have the base of recording, and we start from here. And as you can see, there are quite a lot of them in this small area. And another reason I decided to do it right now is Shadia Abdurrabo. She, who is from Abli, she did this community cultural days in Abli in 2024. And then the result was amazing. She did some hands-on kids activity and also a lot of discussion with the elders. And what was the result of this is that local people care about heritage even in these difficult times. It's not a priority, of course. Priority is their life, but they do care about the heritage and what's happening to their own area. So that this was kind of motivation, because sometimes I was not sure if it's okay to talk about heritage when the whole society is in difficult situation from the war. But there are people who cares about it, so why not we support this way? And another direct reason, also I decided to apply for this climate change grant, heritage grant, was the 2024 floods and heavy rains. And this is a picture from Sarkamato, which is north of the project area. And there are some videos on social media that mud brick houses being destroyed by flash flood. And so that, as Mahmoud said yesterday, there are more frequent and intensive rains in northern Sudan, so that it's important to pay attention not only the conflict but also the climate change, and then this is damaging the heritage in Sudan. And the climate change is not just about more rain, but also because it's droughts and high temperature for many days, it causes fire in the palm groves. And usually historic building is in the palm groves or very close to the palm trees, so that it affects also the land use change. Sometimes farmers want to expand their fields so that they can produce more. So at the end, they decided to destroy some of the buildings. This is some of the situation that is observed. And another thing is the gold mining activities. This is 2026 right now. In the other side of the main project area, we decided to include Saketer Abd because of the mining activities very close to the site. The site is here. This is medieval church or monastery which hasn't been properly excavated. It looked like this already before the war. This is 2021. This is from Google Earth image. And this is from 2018. So there was nothing. There was no activity around, but there has been a lot of development of the gold mining activities, so that we decided to include this in our project so that we can document the site before it might be destroyed. I hope not. And another reason we decided to do this project, or I decided to do it, because I'm familiar with local community. I think it's quite difficult in the conflict situation to start a new project in a completely new area, because you don't know people there and they don't know you. But in this area, because I had my PhD project, and I had a lot of contact with local community, because my PhD was community archaeology, was the main part. So, and we created even, I collected oral history of some of the buildings in the area, so that I thought this could be a good place to start. And then they, not only me, but also the community side probably will not feel strange or scared if the foreigner come in the middle of the conflict situation. So I said deliverables, and then I thought it might be not clear if I just give you explanation what deliverable means. So I just want to show this is something you promise when you complete the project. These are the things that you can show to the funder. This is a result. So the deliverable is a documentation of 26 earthen buildings in the project area with disaster memory location, and all of them are integrated into the digital map as a GIS database. And the recording of oral history associated with these 20 buildings. Yesterday, 2 days ago, yesterday, you asked if you can add oral history in GIS. I am thinking to mention in each building as information, but have a link to a place that they can listen to or read a transcript of this oral history, because it will sometimes the building has a long history or a lot of different stories. And video and audio recording of knowledge, as I said, trilingual technical word list. 1 historic building is rehabilitated. 10 heritage education activities, sorry, it's not 10, 20, should be completed, and there will be a result will be evaluated by the survey. And we conduct one 3-day workshop for Sudanese students and early career professional. This is the workshop you are taking now. I decided to do it 4 days instead of 3, but this kind of small change is okay, and especially you are doing longer. And there will be also a training, 10 local people trained on the job in the local area. So these are something that I promise to complete. And we need to be consistent throughout the application. I also talked about project risks, and especially for the reviewers, they always ask, there is ongoing conflict in Sudan. Is it possible to do this project? So what I wrote was there's no direct impact of armed conflict in the project area at the time of application. It's also good to put this at the wording that at the time of application, because you never know in the future. But and then the second point I added was it's a small project team so that we know each other and we can control. It's easier to control, and all the project members are familiar with the project area. So not just me, but Shadia is from ABLI, and also the others main project team members. Some have done the project there before, or also have a family relationships, so that they know they are not strangers. So I try not to bring strangers to a village in in the current situation, so that there is we can reduce the risk to complete this project. And also, I recognize that there's a possibility to bring some of the equipment into Sudan from Poland. So I made it as simple as possible, because it would be great if we can have a drone, for example. But the drone could be a little bit sensitive. Um, and actually, Adrian managed with the permission from the army, but this can be complicated to bring in. So I decided not to include it, for example, so that I made it as simple as possible with minimum equipment, but we can still complete what we want to complete. And we also added emergency evacuation plan. So we added to the budget that in case of something happen, we have some money to bring all the project people to go outside and to a safer place. So these could help to convince that you are preparing for something if something happens. Because unfortunately, we cannot stop the war, but we can explain that we are ready for this and we prepare if something this happens, then we will include in the budget as in case of emergency, and in the project budget, we don't include equipment that probably we cannot bring in. So there are a lot of things, and as many of you are still early career or students, but I saw some of you already working in NGOs or doing PhD. So you can start probably from first attend some of the online courses. Some of them are free, or some of them are available on YouTube. And these are two good organizations that provide online courses, Heritage Management Organization and ECLOM. And Heritage Management Organization also had a heritage grant call, which funded 2 projects in Sudan, but I wasn't sure from their website that if they are still open for this call, so I didn't mention in the earlier, but they also provide a lot of training course, which can be helpful for you. And also, I recommend you to check the funders' social media and reports. Especially social media can be, include a lot of pictures with short summary, and you can find which funder is funding what kind of projects. This will help to focus which project funding organization you want to focus on. And it's very helpful to attend lectures, online lectures, and read articles, and not only about Sudan. but also other heritage project in other countries, because now methodologies can be similar. There could be a very good innovative methodology that other projects in Iraq or Syria or Lebanon are used. And especially, I think it's helpful for you to look at some of the projects that is happening during the conflict or post-conflict projects. Yes, there's some typo, but so that, for example, now Iraq, after long years of war and difficult social situation, there are a lot of heritage projects, and some tourists are coming back. So that this could be the similar feature to Sudan. It's difficult right now, but you can learn from this project and how it could be imagined in the future for Sudan. And also, don't be discouraged by the failed applications. The truth is, most applications are not successful because it's very difficult. And don't it you can. And also, I want to stress that if you apply many funding organizations, including research grant, provide comments, what they think, what the reviewer thought about your application, and this could help to improve so that you can try again, considering these comments that you receive from the specialists. So I prepared some exercise for you, but I know that we have a bit longer day than we planned. So I can send you this exercise, and if you want, you can complete and send it to me, and I can send back to you with comments. What do you think?
Yeah, good idea.
Yes. Is that okay? There are two, so you can choose exercise 1 or 2, or you can do both. This is up to you.